Welcome to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. My name is Jerome Lewis. I'm your host for today. The Real Estate Marketing Podcast is a podcast where we talk marketing, tech, business, and leadership. We talk these things for real estate agents, real estate investors, and real estate entrepreneurs. The Real Estate Marketing Podcast is a podcast that has two purposes. Purpose number one, to educate and to inform our audience and listeners. Purpose number two, Khalia, to spotlight you, your business, your service, and your product in a way that provides value to you, including market exposure and content creation. With that, we have a very special guest, Khalia Luff. Khalia Luff is a highly accomplished Philadelphia native with a successful track record as a serial entrepreneur. She earned an AA in social behavior with concentrations in psychology, sociology, and a BA in Africology and African studies with a minor in sociology. Graduating from the Temple University, I never can say this word correctly, cum laude, right? Is that correct?
I think
Is that
it's
how you say it?
I think it's
Cum
cum.
laude. Cum laude with the highest GPA in the College of Liberal Arts. Despite becoming a mother at the young age of 16, Khalia persevered and became the first person in her household to attend college. At just 21 years old, she co-founded her first business, a successful virgin hair and beauty salon in Center City, and then later started an online clothing store. Khalia's passion for education led her to become a successful teacher while also pursuing a master's in urban education at UPenn. However, her entrepreneurial spirit eventually led her to quit teaching and focus on real estate, where she excelled for almost 7 years. In addition to her real estate ventures, Khalia has successfully launched several additional businesses, including a junk removal company and a mobile notary business. Thank you for notarizing my paperwork. She is currently focused on building her rental portfolio and remains actively involved in each of her businesses. Khalia's exceptional drive, determination, and business acumen have earned her a reputation as a leader and innovator in the Philadelphia entrepreneurial community. She is a true inspiration to young people and entrepreneurs everywhere. Khalia, welcome to the show. Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. So, Khalia, tell us, today we're going to be talking about and discussing within real estate, specifically wholesaling. So tell the audience how you got involved in wholesaling.
So, when I was in college, after I started my first business, I was looking into real estate. I was already a mom, so I was already, having to consider keeping a roof over my head in a way that other people didn't. So I was already thinking about buying a house, and I knew that at the time I wanted to purchase a property where I could live on top, and like run a business out the bottom or rent out the bottom. So that much I knew. When I was graduating college, I had a girlfriend who's still in real estate. She was a realtor. She was telling me about a program where you could get a loan based on your projected income if you were a new college graduate. And so because I had landed a teaching job that was a 2-year contract, I was going to use that as my pathway into real estate. I started teaching. I was attending UPenn, but then I just realized that wasn't for me. And so I quit my teaching job. I quit UPenn, and I had gotten like a refund check from school that I was going to use to essentially do a flip. Once I got a little bit of education, and I had my little bit of money, I was going to throw it into a flip. But then I realized like I was probably about to lose all my money, and I didn't know, I really didn't know what I needed to know to turn a profit with that money. So I decided to wholesale instead. I was learning about wholesaling, but I honestly didn't want to do it because I had just gone from selling virgin hair to opening up a hair salon to having an online clothing store. And I was like, I don't know that I really want to run a business. And like wholesaling is like running a business. In my mind, I thought flipping houses, I didn't connect the fact that flipping houses was also running a business. I just thought I could go buy a property, fix it up, flip it, make 50,000 and be cool. You know what I mean? I didn't realize it was also making a business. So I'm like, I don't really feel like running a business. Like, I just want to make some money. But like I said, I realized I didn't know what I needed to know. So I decided to try wholesaling instead. And that was what I did.
So what is wholesaling? What is that? What does that mean?
Wholesaling is essentially connecting motivated sellers with motivated buyers. Basically, what you're doing is you're finding off market real estate deals, you're finding distressed properties or homeowners who are in distressed situations, and you are getting their property under contract. And what you're doing is selling your interest in that contract to a cash buyer or an investor, however they're funding the deal, to an investor for a profit, and you pretty much make the money in the middle. But your job is not just to connect them, but also to solve the millions of problems that comes up, whether it's like clearing title or like dealing with the seller and like family stuff. Like sometimes it's like a family property, sometimes they're going through probate, sometimes families are fighting over properties. You have to like stay in the middle of all of that to make sure that everybody gets to the closing table, while also knowing your numbers, knowing rehab numbers, knowing like what's going to make a profit to your investors, and also facilitating and maintaining your relationships with investors so that you're able to like sell them good deals.
Thank you. Why would a seller work with a wholesaler versus somebody like a licensed real estate agent or a flipper directly?
hmm So, for one, they don't have to worry about like, so some sellers don't even want to like let their neighbors know that they're selling their house for whatever reason. Sometimes they're going through like hardships or whatever, and they just don't want people in their business, so they don't want people to know. So they don't want to put out a for sale sign. They don't want realtors showing their properties to millions of people. They don't want to go through that process. It's always it's a lot easier to selling direct with someone who's knowledgeable and able to solve those problems and connect you with a buyer just without going through all of the hassle. And you don't have to pay a lot of fees. You don't have to pay the realtor's fees. Sometimes you don't have to pay closing costs. Our job is to just make it like a seamless process.
There is a perception that wholesalers are stealing properties. What do you have to say about that?
I feel like there's a perception that investors or developers in general steal
Mhm,
properties. Um, I think that it there are like unscrupulous people in every industry. I think
mhm.
that wholesaling in general gets a bad rep because it's been highly unregulated. So, scammers and like other types of people are able to just penetrate the industry. And there's not as much like red tape as there would be with like getting your real estate license, where I believe you have to do like a criminal background check and like all of these other things. And so it's much easier for people to go into that space not really having the right set of values and take advantage of people. So, I mean, that exists. However, our job is to solve people's problems, and make it a win win situation. And I mean, we in particular, we have many, many, many testimonials where like people are very thankful that they work with us. We're helping someone sell their property right now, and she's like, she's happy that I'm able, like, that she found someone that she can trust to like take over the process, to like deal with people, help her with like hold her hand, all of that type of stuff. So I mean, it happens, but I would say you have to deal with people who are honest, people who have integrity, people who have longevity, right? So not someone who just got into real estate for 6 months, but we've been in real estate for almost 7 years now. So we're here, we're in the industry, like we're known professionals. So we're not out here taking advantage of people. Like we're easy to find. We're not hiding. You get what I'm saying?
Thank you. Tell me about a common myth within the wholesale industry.
Common myth. A common myth I would say is that like it's just fast cash and like wholesalers don't really do much or add much value other than finding a property, and they don't understand the work, the levels of work that go into finding a property, right? Because it's not just you have to know so many different things at one time and be good at so many different things at one time. You have to be able to find opportunities, you have to know your numbers. You have to be able to do market research to know where opportunities are. You have to be able to have good research skills to find some of the homeowners of these people. You have to have capital and connections in the real estate industry to get some of these deals done. Sometimes they have to go through probate and people don't have money, like, and you have to pay for that. And then you have to have the network to be able to actually move the contract once you get it. You have to have the buyers, you have to have relationships with title companies, you have to know contract law, you have to know real estate law, you have to know zoning. Like, there's so many different things that you have to know at once to be successful in it.
Thank you. I see you post some deals, but I didn't know you were like a wholesaler. So that's interesting. I do some wholesaling too. I started local, and now I do virtual, like national.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we're
yeah,
trying to
that's
the other markets, but that's how I got into real estate. That's actually what we do primarily and what we've been doing for the last 7 years.
okay. What's one piece of advice you would give someone that's starting out in wholesaling?
I would say One Piece. One Piece. It's not just One Piece, but One Piece would be
Where should they start? Like, what's one piece? Where would they start? Like, if you could tell somebody, this is where you start. I'm giving you this piece of advice. Start here. What would that look like?
be educated, like know what you're talking about, like learn how to do the real estate math, know the real estate jargon, know how to analyze deals, know how to identify opportunities, like do the work of educating yourself so that when you put yourself out there, whether it be to sellers or buyers, you know what you're talking about and you're able to actually get stuff done.
Where would I get my education? Like, where would I start? I go on the internet. I hit Google, Bigger Pockets, real estate
Yeah.
websites.
So, I mean, what I would say, like for me, I've never taken, like, I don't know, this education wasn't like readily available to me, like offered in school or anything like that. So I literally in the beginning went to every single real estate networking event, in the city every time. And also watched a ton of YouTube videos and also just talked to people and paid for courses and classes. And I just soaked up as much information as I could.
You know what I'm
I
about to ask you?
self-taught. I don't know what you're about to ask me.
Okay. Do you think you can teach people how to get involved in this business?
Yeah.
How would you do that?
How would I do that? Well,
Mhm.
for one, I would probably hire them. Um, and then I would be able to teach them. But it would depend on what position, right? But
Mhm.
if I'm being hired as a teacher to just teach someone how to wholesale soup to nuts, I would probably begin with, like I said, education. It would be probably real estate terms and real estate math. That's probably where I would start.
Okay. So you should
And by
create a
doing,
real
I
estate.
mean,
You
like
should
zone.
create a course.
Yes.
You should
Yep.
think about that. Should be on the agenda. That should be
No,
on the
it is.
agenda.
It already is.
Okay. Cause so I got my host. I just paid a coach. Got my education from a coach. I just paid him, and he taught me. Cause at some point you learn everything, like you're
Right.
saying, go Bigger Pockets and YouTube and stuff like that. But there's still a real world experience that you need, and there's different ways to do stuff. But people, what I'm finding, right, is that people are overwhelmed. They see all the information out there, they don't know what to do. So you get the education, then it's like, well, now you need to go do the thing. Now you need to go implement that thing. So, yeah, just wondering, like, you're very smart. You teach those goal setting workshops and stuff like that. I think you can come up with a nice and healthy course, and you could also probably train people on how to work with you too. This is how
Yeah.
it works. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we would like to grow our team in that way, and teach people in that way. So yeah, it's
Okay.
dope.
All right. Wholesaling. So tell me about your least favorite transaction, and then tell me about your most favorite transaction.
Hmm.
Wholesale.
Least favorite. Okay, so I know the. I think this is my favorite. I don't know. We've had some good ones. I think this is my favorite. My favorite
Mhm.
one is we helped a pastor from Puerto Rico sell his nonprofit organization along with 11 parcels that were attached to it. And it was over $1 million deal. So it was our favorite. It was my favorite because that it also took like 2 years maybe to get it done. Um, but that was my favorite deal because it was like a huge deal. It made the paper, the developer who actually did the condos on the land, that made the paper. We were able to uh so the pastor told us that like he was like he had a dream or something like that, and he said that God told him that he can get $1.2 million for this land. And we literally, like, usually, like, for one, we had no idea how to even determine the real value of the land because we were very early on in our career, so we didn't really have all of the information. We didn't really know how to value it. Usually when sellers just say a number, like, they very rarely get the first number that they say. But this guy, we were able to get him his exact number and sell it for, over that amount, and for us to still be able to make a profit. And the guy who bought it got a good deal, and there's condos there, and we learned a whole lot. We had to go through we had to deal with the city, we had to deal with, what was that organization, the redevelopment authority. That was our first time going through stuff like that. We had to go through, I want to say, a quiet title. What was it? Meetings. RCO meetings. I think we had to go through a quiet title process for this deal. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot. But that was my favorite. And my least favorite.
Don't say nothing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
People are always trying to get away from the negative stuff. That's
Right.
not. We don't do that here.
Favorite. What was my least favorite? So maybe I'll say there was a particular deal where we was helping a woman sell her property, and by the time we basically got to the closing table, she didn't really she wasn't really walking away with a lot of money. And we had like developed a good relationship with this lady. Like, to this day, if I see her, you know what I mean? Like, she'll hop in a car with us, we'll go have lunch, we'll laugh. Like, she's real cool. But because there was like some credit card stuff that had popped up like super last minute, all this other stuff, the property needed way more work than we originally thought, because like the back wall was crumbling, so like it needed to be rebuilt, those types of things. So by the time she got to the table, she wasn't really walking away with that much, and she was like, she needed the money to move and whatever. And I just didn't like the fact that we weren't able to help her in a way that we would have liked to, because we've developed a relationship with her, so we wish that we could have like gotten her more money.
So how does that work? See, this is why the negative stuff is good. Like, how does that work? Like, what do you mean she lost the money? Like, did it fall off the table? Did it have to go somewhere? What is that process like?
She didn't necessarily, I mean, I guess she lost the money. She had more debt than she realized, and it didn't really come up until like a couple of days before settlement. Like, this credit card judgment popped up last minute, so where she would have been walking away with at least a few $1,000s to be able to move, the judgment came up at the last minute, literally a couple of days before settlement, and she was already at risk of like losing the property because she wasn't making her mortgage payments, things like that. So we kind of had to like move forward with it. And so the few thousand that she was walking away with pretty much went to the judgment. We ended up, I believe, actually coming out of pocket to give her some money back to make sure that she was able to walk away with something.
That's noble of you. There is in Philadelphia. We're both in Philadelphia, Philadelphia base. There has we have a new regulation. It's not really new. I think it's 3 years old or something like that.
Mhm.
You know about that. You got to be
So,
licensed now to wholesale in Philadelphia, right?
from what I understood about the bill, or like what I read, it didn't sound like it applied to exactly what we do. Like, they're calling it a wholesale license, but it actually sounds like it applies to flippers, because it sounds like you can't, like, I forgot exactly what it was, but it didn't sound like it actually applied to what we do. And also, I don't know that, and this is, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but I don't know that that could trump contract law, because contract law says that you have the right to assign your interest in a contract unless it says that it's not assignable. So I don't know how much that could trump contract law. And like I said, it looked like to me that it applied to someone who actually took ownership of the property, and we never take ownership as a wholesaler.
Okay. I just Yeah, I had the perspective that you have to become licensed, and that's always been my understanding. But you, right, like you said, contract law may or may not overwrite that. So that's why it's so important to have that education.
Right. I mean, and either way, if they ever said like you need to do this to continue to maintain business, it's just a price and a class
Right.
or whatever it is. We would just get
Yep.
licensed.
Just the price of business.
Yeah.
Um. All right. So, something that people always want to know about, right? Without exposing your secret sauce, something that people always want to know about is like, how do you get more deals? How do I find deals? How do I find these sellers? Could you give some tips or some insight on how people can find deals?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm just getting over a cold. But I would say look for distressed properties. Look for properties that are falling apart. Look for properties that look blighted, that look abandoned. Um, Eyesores. Go into nice neighborhoods and look for properties that are like have tall grass. Like the mail is, falling out the mail slot. That probably means someone hasn't been there in a long time. Like those are the sorts of things that you're looking for to find it, and then you can just go on the city's website to find out who the owner is, and then you have to like do your own research to figure out how to contact them.
Thank you. I want to get to the closing table, right? You know what that is? Tell us what the closing table is. You know all about that.
Come on. The closing table, I mean, that's where it go down. That's where you get the bag at. That's where you're signing paperwork, you're signing settlement documents, and everyone's walking away with a smile and a bag, hopefully. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
So we
that's it.
we have like on my podcast, since it's called the Real Estate Marketing Podcast, we have what's called the closing table, and then we start asking questions to kind of close it up, close it down. So we're getting to the closing table. Closing table question I have for you. The first one is, what are three book what are let me start with the podcast. What are three podcasts you recommend to the audience and why?
Three podcasts to this particular audience.
Or
So
in general.
yeah, I'll just say some of my favorite podcasts.
Mhm.
There's a woman named Courtney Sanders. I believe it's just the Courtney Sanders show. I love her because I believe she's an air sign like me, which makes her very great at communication. She's very articulate. She's very smart. She has a lot of good information just about business, building businesses, building platforms, marketing, like monetizing products and services, monetizing your audience, different things like that. She's a business coach, and now her business is that she teaches other coaches how to be business coaches. But she still has a lot of like just great general information, and she's a black woman and she's a mom. So I tend to draw more toward not more, like not more, not like I don't listen to other people, but I'm saying that
You
it's
identify and
the people
appreciate
that you
people
identify
closer
with
to you.
will also
Yep.
share your lifestyle and things like that, because it's just the level of things that they go through that you can connect with, like being a mom and being a business owner, right? So that's Courtney Sanders. There is a woman who's actually in Philly. Her name is Jamila Payne. I love her. She is I know her background is in corporate marketing. Now she teaches other business owners basically how to become CEOs essentially, and how to do different things in their business. Her podcast, I don't know if that's the name of her podcast, and I forget the name off the top, but it's Jamila Payne. Um, and like I said, I just get a lot of good general information from her. And then I would say number three, who do I listen to? Oh, Patrice Washington. I love her so much. Patrice Washington, she used to be on the Steve Harvey show. She is known as the Money Maven. Um, I forget exactly what she does now, actually, but she has a lot of great information just about her whole message is about like how building wealth is so much more than money. And she talks about these other areas of your life, like health and people, relationships, your space, different things like that, and how all of those, like how you have to, show up in all of those other spaces in order to really attain wealth. So I really love her. She's also another black woman, a mom, all of those things.
Thank you. So I forgot to ask you a question before we got to the closing table. I have like a bonus round. Bonus question is, how can someone add immediate value to you or your business?
Immediate value to me or my business. Um, Ooh, that's good. Bring me a seller. Bring me somebody who want to sell their property. Bring me a buyer who's interested in purchasing. Bring me any kind of investor or real estate professional who closes deals, and I could close their transactions. So
Okay.
bring
How
people.
how can someone bring long-term value to you or your business?
That's a good question. Um, Long term value. Hmm, that's a good question. Maybe monetarily investing.
Okay. I mean, you could have said sponsorship, like, so this question, the reason why I did this question is because a lot of times, like us, when we're out serving entrepreneurs, business owners, we fail to slow down and think about ways that people can help us. So I injected these questions so I can figure out how I can help my guests, but I also don't want people coming to my guests and just picking their brain or asking them for stuff without having a way to bring them value. So
Right.
that's the purpose of that question.
Makes sense.
Okay. So back to the closing table. Tell us 3 books you recommend to the audience and why.
3 books. Of course, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Just because it's definitely a great foundational book for personal finance and just changing your mindset on how you need to understand money and utilize money. Um, I would say probably more for women. There is a book called Sacred Pampering Principles that definitely speaks to just healing and femininity and like just sacredness. Like I don't know, it's a great book about like
Can you say
self
that again?
sacred pampering principles
Okay.
by Dabrina Jackson.
Thank you.
hmm Definitely like a spiritual book, but not religious, but spiritual in the sense of like sacred femininity, maybe. It's a really good book, really healing book. I recommend it to every woman. And then let's see, I'm trying to be well rounded, but I probably would say Traction. That's my book.
Oh man, I love that book.
Yes, that's
Love
my
that book.
yeah.
What are you?
I am the visionary.
Mhm.
I am the visionary. My business partner is the integrator, so that works well. Um, but you know why I recommend Traction. But Traction by Gino Wickman, I recommend that to every business owner. Um, I mean, you can read it if you're just starting out. It's not going to be as applicable. It's definitely a book for like once you get past the startup phase, I would say, or how to even for me, like when I was introduced to it, it was after I was a few years into business and had a team and had certain processes and things like that. So it was like way more relevant and easier to implement a lot of the things because the business was already up and going. But I will say though that every business that I started after, I used the traction model, and it was what I believe it was one of the pieces that helped us grow those businesses very quickly.
I think that people should read it in the beginning too because it gives them a foundation to understand strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
Um, so I don't think you need to
Mhm.
be in a startup. I think you start there too, because a
Okay.
lot of people start without that knowledge, right? And then
Right.
they like it's like a mess. If you
You're gonna
start
end up
knowing
going
off
back
like,
to it
I,
anyway.
mhm.
Right.
Say that again.
Now I said you're gonna end up going back to it anyway.
Yes. So I
Right.
think if you start there, like, okay, I'm this person, these are my skills, this is my contribution, you can have like a straight path. I think um me start to finish, like that's one of the first books that I recommend for people. I recommend Traction as the like generic foundation. I also typically recommend E-Myth a lot
Yeah, I was gonna
because
say
people don't understand their strengths and weaknesses. You can't do everything.
right.
And I'm telling you, the world is full of visionaries. It's not as many integrators as there are visionaries. Everybody's trying to start stuff, and it's like, look, you need to slow down and get some
Right.
of this stuff implemented. So I
Right.
highly, highly recommend that book. Got it right here. It's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, it is. It is one of my
Like
Traction and I actually read E Myth before I read Traction, and it was definitely foundational as well. I think
yeah.
Traction was just like next level.
Yeah, Traction is I really, really, really love that book because people need like the title, they need to grit a grip on their business. So
Right, right.
yeah. All right. We are ready to close it down. How can we find out more about you online?
You can follow my business pages.
Okay.
For the notary company, it's at Sankofa Signings, both on Facebook and Instagram. For junk removal, demolition, permits, and licensing, it's at Sankofa Cleanouts, both on Facebook and Instagram. And then I am personally on Facebook and Instagram too, but I don't typically accept
She
people who
private, y'all. Super
I
private.
mean, I have my daughter and stuff like that. I tend to share more personal things about me on my personal pages while my business pages are public. You can still see some things, still have access. Get to know me, and then I'll accept your friend request.
All right. So close us out, right? Typically people close out with a statement, but I like to close it out with a word. Close us out. One word. If you have one word to wrap up today or this podcast interview, give us one word, no explanation. No, well, just one word.
Beast mode.
That is not one word.
Yes, it is. Beast
No,
mode
it's
is
not.
one word.
No, it's not.
Safe in there. Beast mode is one word.
Okay. Tell me why you picked beast mode.
I don't know. It's just the first thing that popped into my head. I didn't know that you were going to say to this, about today or the podcast. But when you said it, it was just the first thing that popped into my head.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you. So thank you so much for your time today. I need you to stick around for like 2 minutes when we end it. So thank you, Khalia. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.